Wow, that's great that you brought that up, because we actually sent cameras up to the big Oath Keepers event on Lexington Green, and there they all were, just hundreds and hundreds of people from around the country and thousands on the internet at Oath Keepers saying, we're not going to go along with this, because it's always been said that tyranny, if it comes, will come to your door in a uniform.
Yeah.
And let's go back, though, to that power structure, because I inadvertently interrupted you, seconding what you were saying. We have at the top the Council on Foreign Relations and a few other big think tanks that kind of set the policy. Well, I mean, you've got the robber, and I mean, I want your view, but this is my view. At the very top, you've got the big robber baron, royal families, the people that control the majority of the world's wealth. The monopoly capitalists, they'll fund fascists, they'll fund Soviets, they'll fund socialists, they'll fund whatever consolidates power. You've got them at the top. Then you've got the big think tanks, the CFR, kind of managing the 5,000 or 6,000 super class, as Rothkopf calls it, in his book, bragging about their power, admitting they run the world. So that's kind of their big management team. And then they've got governmental and quasi-governmental structures and regional roundtables over the different sectors. And then the enforcers are the military, but because the military in the West won't carry out these tyrannical actions by and large, because of lessons from history, they're now trying to create special cadres of paramilitary local SWAT teams, all being expanded, with local liaison military offices and local CIA offices. So I see them attempting to build the cadres up to brigade strength in a regional system, and they say local community FEMA camps where you want to come. You get food and medicine there, and they're artificially imploding the economy by design to kind of force people into their arms to re-engineer the economy, where everything is force-fed into this kind of corporate strip mining system of vertical integration. Comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a possibility. What I see is that essential to what they're doing is this whole thing of preventive war, wars of aggression, the building of their empire by using the militaries of the United States and Great Britain and Israel.
Don't the bad guys throughout history always, they're the ones that do a preemptive war? I mean,
of course.
But I mean, in your own words, make that clear to the viewers out there.
Well, preemptive war is another word for war of aggression, and it's a war crime, according to the Nuremberg Principles, which the United States created and established at the end of World War II, and on the basis of which we hung Nazi war criminals who were just following orders. We have established that war of aggression is a war crime. That is something that Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld should have been indicted for. And if it is continued much longer under the Obama administration, there are folks in the Obama administration that are putting themselves in danger of becoming war criminals. What I'm trying to do with the Oath Keepers is to expand the list of orders that they will disobey to include participating in any war of aggression.
Well, I mean, that's what George Washington said. We don't get in foreign entanglements. We don't go into foreign wars. We don't involve ourselves in anything unless we're being attacked. And then several presidents later, we then see Thomas Jefferson, when some of the Barbary pirates, when some of the Moors were attacking some of our ships, we sent Marines out to deal with it. But that's something completely different than going into Iraq and leveling the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And these wars of aggression are not only war crimes, they are unconstitutional, and they are treason against the United States of America. They are killing our young soldiers, our young men and women, using them as hired killers for the corporations. We've got to stop that. We have to say that according to the Constitution, we have got to have a military whose mission is to protect the American people and our borders. Period. Period. End of report. Not to protect the global financial interests of multinational corporations and banks, Bechtel, Halliburton, Exxon, Folgers, Chiquita Banana, you name it.
What about the imperial hubris of DynCorp and Halliburton in the news running white slavery trafficking, and then Rumsfeld is asked about it by Cynthia McKinney when she was in Congress, and he says, I'm not going to discuss it. They were in the penalty box. Now they're out of the penalty box. They got a fine. No one goes to jail, but if somebody kidnaps a child down the street from a playground, there's Amber Alerts and freakouts. I mean, the level of looting, the Goldman Sachs openly, running the White House, the last two White Houses, openly engaging in cash payments to themselves with their former executives running the Treasury and running the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, and on that note, I've got to say, any corporation, any entity which is too big to fail is too big to exist. We used to have antitrust laws. We used to have anti-monopoly laws. It's time we did again.
Isn't that just a mind game to say too big to fail? Or, well, yeah, the president ordered torture and it is illegal, but he's the president. And then you just give in to the dictatorship. You give in to the tyranny. It's that seduction. And then finally you have a capitulation to evil. And it's just, oh, that's just the way it is. And then the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and it all rests on the myths that we are told. And the antidote is the truth. And that's why what we are doing, Alex, you and I, and so many of our buddies, is so important. We've got to explode those myths, because it's upon those myths, like 9/11, that all the evil actions get carried out and excused off and justified. There are a lot of these truths that we need to expose, not just 9/11. For example, I'd like to expose all the myths that we've been told about the murders of our soldiers in the field, especially the women. Most of them are women. I think families have a right to know what really happened to soldiers like Pat Tillman and Lavina Johnson. Now, most of the viewers know who Pat Tillman is, football star turned war hero turned conscientious objector, which the Army said was killed in action. Then they said, well, it was really friendly fire. But there is a lot of evidence that so-called friendly fire came from less than 10 feet. And he was really fragged because he was turning against the war, and that would be embarrassing to the establishment.
Well, the Army's own internal reports that have finally been brought out, and I've actually talked to the family, was that they shot him. He hid behind a rock, and he said, hey, I'm Pat Tillman. What's your problem? And they walked right up and did him.
Yep.
And, my God, those soldiers followed that order. I guess by probably the CIA in the field, because Pat Pat was sending letters home saying, I'm going to come home and speak out against this fraud regarding the opium.
Yeah.
I even heard BBC admit about a month ago on XM that, oh yes, the U.S. troops are guarding the opium and letting the farmers sell it so the Taliban doesn't get a foothold. The Taliban runs those fields, and now there's heroin all over the streets. It was on local news last night that everybody's on heroin now in Austin. I mean, the government openly ships it in. They'll openly kill Pat Tillman. But now, see, that's patriotic. Oh, we have to kill Pat. It's for America.
Yeah.
We've got to ship heroin in for the kids, Bob.
Yeah. Well, but I bet you most of the people out there never even heard of Lavina Johnson.
Now, tell folks about her.
Well, Lavina Johnson was a young American girl, African-American, lovely, Christian, virgin. She volunteered to fight in Iraq. Her body was found in a Halliburton tent. Her body was shipped home. Her parents, in a closed casket, her parents told not to open the casket. Well, her father was a physician, still is, and I've talked to him personally. He opened the casket and he examined his daughter. Her brains had been blown out. There were bruises all over her body. Her hands were badly burned, too badly burned to hold a gun, for example. And her genitals had acid poured on them in an apparent attempt to destroy DNA evidence. The Army ruled it a suicide. A government that honors the truth must seek out the truth and then tell the truth. And by God, we have to demand that.
Well, that's what I was going to point out, is that once you give in to evil, it's all over. Sky's the limit. I mean, and these psychological warfare chiefs, they cold-bloodedly knew when they had Rumsfeld come out and go, we're taking off the gloves, we're doing it for America. This was a seduction of evil. And then as soon as you say torture's okay, then the Washington Post had an article going, yeah, we're doing stuff to their kids in front of them. And then when Khalid Sheikh Mohammed confessed to everything but killing Kennedy and sinking the Lusitania and bombing buildings that weren't built till 4 years after he was incarcerated, and they were waterboarding him multiple times a week for years, it turned out that was all staged. Some of the tortures of some of the detainees said, well, we were ordered to. Here's our national security letter. They arrested the torturers and used the Patriot Act to gag them.